Hello, everybody. We are, when I say we, I mean me. Uh, Chef Chris is busy working. As you may know, it is harvest time here at the winery. And so we can't always have both of us in front of the screen. And that's the sacrifice that are made here to make sure that all departments are running well at Old North State. We don't just handle the big issues of the restaurant, but we also handle the big issues of the winery. So shorthanded as we are, it is time for as many people to jump in and help as possible at harvest time. We've started pulling Riesling. We have lots more coming. It's going to be an exciting time. There's just so much exciting wines out there. Petit Mansing, I think, is going to be our biggest draw, but we got some Chamberson out there. It's just going to be a lot of fun to see what this vintage holds. Of course, my name is Ed. I'm the sommelier here at Old North State Winery and Restaurant. And what I do, well, other than drink a lot of wine, I tell people about wine. And we are not boxing ourselves in just to the wines that we make, because we think it's important for people to know the wines of the world as well, so that they can know why our wines are different and special here in the Yadkin Valley, and just have an overall better knowledge of wine so that you make better purchases. I think that's the biggest frustration that I see in my friends and family is, you got nothing but marketing to tell you what to buy. And I think it's the best way to know about something is to experience something and to talk about it. And so that's what we do. We do it here every Thursday night rather, at 6 p.m. And of course, if you can't be here at 6 p.m. on Thursday, we do this virtual video so that you can keep up. If you would like to join us for a virtual tasting, just RSVP, come by and pick up your tasting kit on Thursday, and you can take it home and watch this video whenever you please, and you can press pause and chase the kids around or put out a fire in the kitchen and not miss a beat. So there are some advantages to watching it from home. You can watch it over and over. Hopefully you like it and share it with friends. So I've got a double dip on Italian wine for you. These are two areas that are near and dear to me, as I was in these areas just in April. So it wasn't that long ago that my boots were on the ground and I went to war, so to speak. Well, my liver did. I had drank a lot of Italian wine over 3 weeks, I can tell you that, in northern Italy. And, there's nothing better in the world, I think, than red wines from northern Italy. So we're going to explore a couple of those today, and I hope that you fall in love with them as much as I am. It's a nice cork right there. As much as I love them as well. So we're going to start off with what I would consider the most important grape of Italy. That's just because that's my palate. I mean, that's a great argument for another day, I'm sure. You can put your hate comments in the video below, but I think Nebbiolo is king. Of course, Barolo is called the wine of kings, and this is not a Barolo. This is a Nebbiolo di Alba. Now, this is from the Roero region. Of course, I only snuck one bottle back as a gift to Chef Chris when I came back, and it was a Roero. I think that much of them. To me, it is Nebbiolo at its most feminine, almost burgundy-like. It's like a heavy-hitting Pinot in a lot of ways. It's a little bit lighter style of Nebbiolo than you would expect from Barolo. And, of course, we always think of Baresco being a little bit on the lighter side. And, this is a little bit on the lighter side, but remember, it's still Nebbiolo. It's still going to have these intense, I'm trying to get the glare off, and I'm not doing a very good job. I'm looking at the screen and I'm seeing this now. Well, you have it in your hand, so that should be good enough for you to see. But Valdinera is the producer here, and this is a Roero-based Nebbiolo farm. I guess you could call it a farm. They're producing their grapes, and my lord, this is classic Nebbiolo. As you can see, it's a pretty light color there. Get it right down there. Yeah. You can see that it's this is a 2020, so usually we're going to hold it for a year before release. Obviously, they could do longer. You know, Barolo, you think about a couple years before release, and or barrel, and then maybe some more bottle aging after that. This is more ready to drink in this region. That's one of the big benefits of it. Still have all the same flavor profiles, but just in a more, subtle, lighter on its feet, lighter on its palate, which is, I really fell in love with this style when I was over there. Was not a big follower of Roero. I was mainly Barolo and Barbaresco were my big things. Of course, Vietti and Di Marie, two of my favorite producers. They make beautiful wines, and the Roero was something that I hadn't really gotten into fully. And so I'm really excited about introducing this producer to my guests, and knowing that it's a family-run operation, multi-generational. The things that we like to hear, people that are given their whole tribe the journey of winemaking. Well, the nose is spectacular. You get the kind of rosy tar aspect that you would expect from a Nebbiolo. Really super clean on the nose, and that's not always the case when we talk about these types of wines. It can get a little funky on the nose sometimes, which I'm not opposed to, by the way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's drinking just as I expected it to in previous tastings. There is this, I guess cherry is probably the best dominant flavor that you could probably describe as. There is a balance that comes across your palate, and then as the fruit flavors wash away, this beautiful acidity and drying aspect of those great tannins of Nebbiolo that really just completely pulverize any of that fruit. The fruit, sometimes to me can almost feel like it's going to approach sweetness. But that's the great thing about Nebbiolo. It'll never leave you sweet. It always leaves you dry. And so there's that build up, like, oh, this is going to be too sweet for me, and then boom, oh wait, this might be too dry for me. And I love that mix of the two. It makes it a lot of interesting characters, particularly with food, because the fruit's going to pair with so many things that you're eating, and then of course the tannins and the structure. In addition, when I'm talking about structure, those compounds, those physical reactions that we have, and that would be like from the tannins. Of course, the acidity here is through the roof, which I love, and of course alcohol. The alcohol here is significant. And honestly, I did not look at it, but I can tell you it is. Let me take a quick peek, or maybe not so quick. Well, I know it's got to be on here somewhere, but you get the idea. Of course, this could be, a lot of times acidity and alcohol can play off together to give you a little bit of a more intense effect in terms of how it feels. But I would say this is probably running in the 14 range, but for life of me can't seem to find it. Oh, there it is. It is 14%. So, and that is a good amount of alcohol, particularly for European wines. We think of these higher alcohol wines being associated with California and things like that. It tells me here that they're getting some ripeness. They are in the northern part of the Longueuil and the Roero Hills, immediately when I think of hills, I think of better sun angles. So if you're planting southern facing on a hill, you're going to get much better sun coverage on your vines. If you look no further than Germany, how they build everything on these extreme slopes over a river to try to capture as much of the sun angle as they can. Of course, Chablis by law, has to be at certain heights on the hill, and then once you get up to the top of the hill where it plateaus off, those are considered lesser wines on the Petit Chablis side of the top of the hill. So the sun angle is prized, is my point, in a lot of famous regions. Of course, Côte Rôtie, the roasted slope, it goes on and on. I mean, you can even look into Napa. I think most of us Napa nerds probably prefer the mountain style or the valley style wines because of their the complexities. And it's not that one is better than the other. It's just stylistically what you are looking for and where your palate is at the time. This, or the food or friends you're with too, can also certainly be a big part of that. But this is what I really like about this wine, is that it can bring so much to the table, but yet still be light on its feet. And I think this is something for people that are Pinot lovers that they can get behind. I think that people that want to transition into understanding lighter wines, I think this is one of the big challenges for people that like big wines. They get up to big wines and they think that that's where you go. It's like that is your growth. You go to bigger and bigger wines. And yes, in the beginning, it is certainly the case. It was the case for me. I wanted to got in a level of wine that I could my palate could handle, and then I started increasing the intensity, right? But then there becomes a time where you want to understand more nuance and more layers, and not just have to think a little bit more, to reach a little bit more. And these are the type of wines that do that. And this is a great transitional wine for those who want to kind of come down the intensity level and see more nuance and subtleties and terroir. The bigger the wine gets, the harder it is to tell where it comes from, in my opinion. And I think these are the kind of wines that really speak more from a place or a family or an environment. So things to think about when you're drinking these wines. It's not always just about how delicious it is. Sometimes we want a little bit more. We want a backstory. We want to know. We want an association with a place or people, and wine can do that if you want it to. Certainly don't have to. You can just drink it and enjoy it for what it is, because this wine is all of the things that I personally like. So I can drink it on its own merits and not have to necessarily geek out on it, but I'm going to geek out on it because that's what I do. But I think it really checks a lot of boxes. I think a very inclusive wine in a lot of ways, and it's certainly not a simple wine. Well, I know Chris is going to find out what I was pouring. He's not going to be too happy that he missed it. I did bring another glass in here just in case he barges in and he starts smelling wine and starts running in. Again, beautiful, almost on the tart side of things, super, super bright. And it's a wine that can age very, very well. So if this is something that you like, this wine can age beautifully, because Nebbiolo, it's just built with the tannins and acidity. It can really handle a long cellaring, and it'll just become more and more integrated. This is I would consider this young for Nebbiolo for sure, but these wines are more approachable young, where you wouldn't drink a Barolo before it was 10 years old. So same grape, just across the river, symbolically across the river. It's a little bit further than that, but it's not far, I can tell you. These regions are all falling in the Langhe. They're encompassed by the Langhe, and it really is in terms of the globe, it's a small area. So 3 different expressions of the Nebbiolo grape: Barbaresco, Barolo, and of course Roero. And the This is just my new thing. I love it, and I hope that you enjoy it as well. Great food one. Just like a Pinot, the versatility is there. Don't be afraid to have this with seafood, white meats. Absolutely will work for you. Roast chicken, pork, salmon, tuna. It's all working. Okay. Well, that was a beautiful, beautiful expression of Nebbiolo. So now, another place that I was so lucky to spend time in, I was at Lake Garda for almost a week. And that's where I got to see so many of the great wineries, that do the ripasos, the dried fruits, the amarones that are so famous for this region. We spent some time up in Verona, went and saw the Colosseum of Verona. There's lots of Colosseums. I think there's 8 in the country, so you don't just have to go to Rome to see a Colosseum. This is from Clementi, and it is once again another family-owned, operated. This is a Valpolicella region, which is a very large region. Of course, they're known for the grape Corvina, and Corvina is just a fruity, delicious grape. It is often blended with multiple other grapes. It's typically around 60% Corvina when you talk about the Valpolicella reds. And we were able to have some of the whites around there too. The Lugano region is phenomenal. Don't miss out on those as well. Turbiano is a wonderful grape. So with the Ripasso, which is a really interesting process where they're in Amarone where they're drying grapes. This the standard Valpolicella is not with dried grapes. So this is where the starting point is, in my opinion. You kind of want to be introduced to the grape and understand what the style is as a fresh one, and then you want to move into the Valpolicella Ripasso, and then of course the Valpolicella Amarone, which is made exclusively from dried grapes, and the Ripasso is a combination of both. Well, one of the things that I do love about this area is that the noses on these wines are always beautiful. Beautiful spice on them. I always get like these extreme baking spice and peppercorn spices every time I stick my nose in one of these wines. The spice comes through on the palate, but it's the fruit that really holds it all together. So the spice seems to seemingly stronger on the nose than on the palate, which actually is probably a good thing because it's so intense on the nose. I don't know how that would be on the palate. It might be too much. But the fruit really sings on this. Corvina is a fruity grape, and it tends to need a blend of other local varietals to kind of give it extra structure and interesting characteristics beyond the fruit. And so that's typically why we see this area as a blended area of Corvina as being the base grape, and then honestly it could be numerous other grapes that are added to it. So I do not have the specs on this particular wine. These two wineries are very boutique, and I have not been to either one of them yet, but I hope to next year. There's just so many things that I had set up. I couldn't see all the wineries that I wanted to see. And so my goal is to step foot in these wineries in the next year. And then I can get more information from the winemakers or the owners of the wineries on the exact percentages of different local varietals that they're blending with the Corvina. This is I want to make note that this, when you taste this wine, outside of the flavors and smells. I want to make note that it's very fresh. It's a very fresh wine, and we're drinking a 2018. So we're approaching 5 years old. I don't know if they harvest in September, October, or what their plans are. Like, we're in mid-September now. We're just starting to pick here in North Carolina. Of course, I don't know what was going on in 2018. Could have been already picked, might not been, but you get the idea. We're right at about 5 years old, and this is still drinking extremely fresh. And that is one of the things that I can say about premium producers of Valpolicella Superiore, is that their wines age so much better than those that are perhaps lesser quality. And the ripasso process and the Amarone, they tend to age much longer because of that drying of the grapes process. Not as much so for the straight Valpolicella, but I think this is a great example of, it depends on who the producer is how far the aging potential will be. I don't see any signs of this wine breaking down anytime soon. It is extremely vibrant and flavorful. Boy, the flavors really, there's a wide range of Valpolicella. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, it does make sense to trust someone to lean you in on a particular producer. Buying wines blindly in this region can give you a very different experience. Not that that's necessarily a wrong thing, but you will see a varying degree of qualities and flavor profiles. So it is it's a complicated region because of that, and they do. That's why they put certain laws into place in European countries, because even within the laws of what they have to grow and what it has to be in the wine, there's still a wide variance in what the end product is. I think a lot of people get wrapped up in, that it's terrible that you can only do this or that in these certain wine regions, but there's still diversity, incredible diversity between producers. So there's not like there's any lack of identity from each winery. So I think Valpolicella probably, as much as any other regulated region in the world, can prove my point here. So this Clementi, of course, he was a lawyer that hailed from the Verona region, that got into wine, and next thing you know, they're making wine for 50 years or so, and it's just it's a wonderful transitional story. I mean, obviously it helps to be a lawyer, to have plenty of money to be able to do these adventures in wine, and a family that supports you, and a family that's going to work hard to make sure that your dream comes true. And so this is kind of a bit of a dream in a glass, if you will. So again, the pairability here for food, unbelievable. I drank a lot of Valpolicella when I was in Italy. It's just so versatile with food. I was drinking it probably more than anything, particularly after I left Lamora, when I got out of what I would call Nebbiolo heaven, where I drank Nebbiolo breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But afterwards, it was I was more looking for stylistically like this for the things that we're eating, because it goes with everything, all your pastas and your pizzas, your braised meats, your ossobucos, it goes great with risotto. Although I will say, this with risotto is heaven. So a lot of versatility in your wine pairing here. We'll love to hear your feedback in our comments, is what you like to pair these wines with. If you had a certain meal with one of these wines, give us some feedback and say, hey, you got to try this wine with, a blackened chicken sandwich, or whatever the heck it is that you're making at home. We love the feedback. And remember, we do this in person with 4 wines every Thursday night in downtown Mount Airy at 6 p.m. So if you'd like to socialize a little bit with 20 or 30 of your like-minded folks that would like to explore wine, we are not necessarily big wine brains, but we got big wine hearts, and we're all kind of chasing that same dream of the next delicious wine. And I would love for you to be here with us. And if you can't, please continue to watch. And well, actually you can do both. So why don't you just do both? Why don't you come here and watch the videos, like them, share them, and we'll get Chris on here next week. I don't think we're gonna harvest anything next week. I think we're gonna skip a week. So hopefully he'll be here in the video with us. And we got lots of exciting things coming up. We have wine dinner on November 7th at 6 p.m. It's a Tuesday night. If you haven't signed up for that, I highly recommend you do that. We're gonna have 4 producers, it looks like, from Italy. So lots of wine to taste, lots of delicious food from Chef Chris. Don't miss out on that. We'll catch you next week. Always a pleasure. Have a great week.